So I just started SolidWorks and I have the welcome screen. I mentioned in one of the previous videos that if you don't want to see this screen, again, it's not my my habit of using this one, and most of the time I'm going to go right to advanced anyway, so it doesn't show me what I need. So I'm just going to click the Do Not Show on Startup, and I won't see that one anymore. If I want to turn it back on, there are items in the settings that we can check and uncheck. And then I can always get to it by going back to the welcome. We just don't see the check mark there. So the tips and the other stuff are kind of handy, but you know, once you get into the mode, it's kind of go right by it. So we're going to be setting up a part template, so we're going to stay with the default. I added a 2020 folder to my Dropbox, so I have a system folder for my settings, and you know, anything that I want to add to this this group, I can build it in, save it as a part template, and then we would also back up all of the system settings once we've kind of customized everything. All right, so some things that I would like to see under the view. We have the view origins. You kind of look down through here. I mentioned the sketch relations are the little green boxes in the sketch. Eventually they will start to take over your sketch, so kind of leave those to toggle on and off as needed. So that gives me the blue origin. When I'm in the sketch, I'll see the red origin, but that kind of gives me a frame of reference, so I like having it on in the part, not so much in the assembly. So when we get to the assembly template, we'll make that adjustment. We did added to the tab is the right click and the toolbars, and also the customize. Or if you come into any of the gray areas on the screen, well, that one just got out of the view area, we can go to customize, and this is where we're going to set up. Do you want to see the command manager? Yes, and use large buttons with text. If I turn those off, you're going to see everything shrinks down quite a bit, opens up some screen space, but maybe not as visible. And for the videos, it helps to have the text there. Icon size, depending on your screen. My laptop has a 3800 by 1920 aspect ratio, so I have to go with larger icons to make it even readable on the screen, so we adjust those. We have large tooltips with images. So apparently that was added here in 2020 with the pictures. So depending on how I feel about those after using it for a couple of weeks, I will probably end up with the large tooltips without images. But having that start and a little description whenever you hover over the icon, not necessarily a bad thing. And then show on selection the context, quick configurations, mates, and shortcut menus. And then the one that I like is once we've adjusted all this, we're going to come back and lock the command manager and toolbars. What that does is, instead of accidentally moving something away, specifically the command manager, and having to re-anchor it, that will kind of eliminate that as a possibility. Shortcut bars, so the flyout, these are going to be the S key. If I wanted to add something to the S key, so we have the whole wizard, reference geometry, kind of the common things. I can't think of anything right off top that I want to add to the parts. We have the assemblies, we also have the drawings, and then the sketch shortcuts. So maybe one in the sketch. If I let's come down to the sketch. I like the split entities. It's also one of the items that I add to the heads up. So if I were to drag that in to the box, kind of wanted it there. I drag that into the sketch, and then when I'm in the sketch, that'll appear with the S key. And if I drag this down just a little bit, see that it's already been added. Ordinate dimensions, display states, 3D sketch planes, things that I've used off and on in various projects. So let's just go ahead and add the shaded contours is a good one. If I were to add it to the heads up, now it would reside there. If I drag it back, it's going to go away. And if I decide, I think usually it's going to be under sketch. So if I decided I needed it there, it wasn't there. When they first added it, you had to kind of go look for it, but I could drag this out, add it to the command manager bar as well. So it gives you tools that maybe you decide you need on a regular basis. You can put them where they're most convenient. All right, same with the commands. If I just come down to any of these, I can drag into the heads up or into the command manager. These are going to be all of the pull down menus if we wanted to customize those. Those pretty much everything that you need is going to be in here somewhere, so I'd say we don't really need to mess with the menus. And the keyboard, these are going to be all of your keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to find a specific shortcut, or you can print or copy the list. Sometimes I'll put this out into Excel and have the Excel file with all the available control keys and various shortcuts that we use. The mouse gestures are set to for the commands, and also it is specific to the window. If you want 4 gestures, we have the part. I don't know if I can. There we go. Move that over a little bit. Part, sketch, assembly, and drawing. Can add. One of the things that I saw as a suggestion in one of the other videos was adding the OK and the exit to this group and making it available for the sketch or something on those. So again, the donut, the mouse gestures is something that I haven't really adopted. A lot of it is just using it and making it part of your workflow. So on the other hand, I didn't know that I could disable it, so since I really don't use it, I may just go ahead and uncheck the enable. For customization, if we want to reset, then we can come over and reset. Alright, so the S key is still active. When I click, that's going to go away. Things in the options. We already did a little bit with the tabs. I'll come over to the tabs. Anything that I'm not using, so right now I'm not interested in the markup, I can turn that off. The model-based definition dimensions, which used to be dim expert, and is kind of building up to have the a little more functionality. We'll leave that one active, and it just opens up some screen space, especially if you have a really full heads up like I've managed to do here. So under the options, previous videos we've gone pretty line by line and looked at these. Auto show property manager. I'm not real fond of the auto size. I like to kind of when I have a dual window over here that I adjust it manually. MBD, editing templates for PDFs, drawings. So the mark all part assembly dimension for import into drawings by default. That is kind of, to me the logic doesn't flow. If everything's marked as a part in assembly, or marked for the dimensions are marked for the to go into the drawing, then why do I need one that inserts dimensions not marked for the drawing? So I usually uncheck that one, and that's the reason why my dimensions show up as purple and yours will probably show up as black. So I can go through and mark specific dimensions for the drawing, and when I do that insert entities, then I can check just the items that I wanted rather than have everything come in. So that's one of those, you have to use it and figure out if it's worthwhile for you. Display styles, things that are going on the screen. Area hatch, so this is legacy. Prior to about 2007, we didn't have the materials library, so you kind of went through and picked and set based on the standard. Performance, show contents while dragging drawing view. Yes and no. If your screen is dithering or flickering, you might turn that one off. Auto update when opening drawings. Okay. Tessellated data for drawings with shaded and draft quality views. Alright, most of those are, like I said, with performance. If there's an issue, then we can adjust for it. View background. Right now we're using the document scene background, and we're going to change that here in a second. But if you wanted just a single color, you could tell it plain, set it as white or gray. Pretty much everything with the drawing sheets and the scenes are going to be on the colors. The sketch, we showed the auto rotate view normal to sketch plane on sketch creation and sketch edit. That one's handy to have. There's a lot of times we're going back and forth into sketches that I'll turn that off, but for the most part, having it auto rotate when you're starting out is helpful. Using fully defined sketches, pretty much it won't let you out of the sketch until it's fully defined, which is pretty annoying. I'm sure at one time that had a use, but not really. The display prompt. Sometimes I'll turn the prompt to close sketch, which can get you in trouble if you really didn't mean to hit that exit. Create sketch on new part. The only downside here is it doesn't ask you which plane. It automatically goes into the front plane, and there you go, you're starting a sketch. So a little time saver if everything goes on the front. Display, line, spline. Enable on-screen numeric input on entity creation. So that's going to ask for the values as you go through. So there's some toggles on the right mouse button that we'll take a look at. Enable snapping, snap to geometry, automatic relations. Make sure that automatic relations is turned on. There's another place that will point out that if it's turned off, it's going to be very painful and not allow you to work with the relations. Display items, nothing really. Selection or box selection. Through transparency, high resolution, performance. Again, if you're having issues, this would be one of the places to check. Large assemblies and assemblies, external references. Our default template locations. So right now it's pointed back to the 2017 folder, which we haven't created any 2020. Normally I'd copy those over so as I update them and save them, I'm not corrupting or changing anything. So the file locations are document templates. For the 2020, I'm going to add the location. And so if I come back over to the Dropbox and pick up my 2020 system files, then I'll add templates. And whatever this shows up as the folder name, that's what it's going to show in the list. And I would like this one to show up first, so I'm going to move it up. So when I go to new, I should see templates, and right now there won't be anything in it. Also, I've set for blocks, and we're going to create a couple blocks as part of our process. So I've created a blocks folder, and then custom property files. We'll work on those. So this is really much only allowing one, and it's pointed back to the 2017 folder. So since that is grayed out, I can't do anything with that. I'm going to delete that one and then go back to my Dropbox 2020 and add the custom properties. And so I'm going to have a few issues with the the custom properties tab over here, and if I have any fields selected for those properties, then becomes an issue. The design library, if we want a custom design library for our group, we can add I believe we can add an additional location. I didn't create one for the folder. Notice this one's pointing to 2018 now. And so, just kind of as we make modifications, I just like to, because this particular system has multiple versions of the software, it's going to allow me to kind of jump around between those folders, or if there's previous versions, it will retain those. So the sheet formats, we will add a location, and that one went back to custom properties. I'm going to switch it over to templates. That's where I'll save my sheet format. Alright, so looking down through here, the symbol library file is pointed, again, only one location, so I'm going to add back in, templates is where I'm going to keep those. Is not found, and I'm going to continue without it because I'm going to have to navigate over into either the SolidWorks system files. You should have the program files location to navigate to, and we'll find that GT symbol and add it back into that particular folder. Thread profiles, weld tables, weld profiles, pointing to, I'll probably update those when we get to weldments. And then pretty much I think that will do it. And when I hit OK, I'm going to let it go ahead and update those locations. It's asking me for elevation since I've made those changes. If you have administrator privileges, you can hit yes. Otherwise, it has to have the login. Right, so, feature manager, things that I like to have. We are currently showing the design binder. I'll make that automatic when we create one. Annotations show. Solid bodies is probably not set to show, but this folder is kind of handy to keep track of. Surface bodies, automatic tables. Automatic material is show. Default planes, origin, mate references, design table. The sensors are handy, but I'm going to make them automatic. When we create a sensor, then it will show up. And the history, I don't use the history very much. You'll have to decide if you like that one, but you can set it to hide or automatic. Under the spin increments, how much we want to increment if we use the arrows. The view, the all-important reverse mouse wheel zoom direction. Backup recovery, if you have a computer that's prone to crashing, maybe save auto recovery information, but pick a folder that's not buried so deep, either in the documents or in your Dropbox folder, so that you can clean that out every once in a while. Also the backup copies. I don't mind the every 20 minutes having it show up with the warning it hasn't been saved. If you have touchscreens, where would you, how would you like to interact with the touchscreen? Whole wizard and toolbox locations. Alright, so if we put this out on the server so that multiple computers are pulling off of the same information, then this is where we would set that location. The File Explorer refers to the task pane File Explorer. What do we want to see in there? And then search and the search box. Indexing, collaboration for multi-user, the last messages, and importing. So Enable 3D Connect is one of those. If you want it to, say you have an Inventor file and an X file, and you import it into your assembly, when you save it as a part, does it reference back to that original file, or does it keep it as an imported solid? So sometimes I'll leave that enabled, and other times I want it to just create a dedicated SolidWorks file, and then all of the export and settings for the various translations. Okay, I set that. I've got my screen pretty much the way I want it. The one thing is the kind of the gray. So let's see, we have the scenes. If I go to basic scenes, I can scroll down through here till I find one that I want. Usually I'm going to go with the plain white, and then add set as default scene. And so when I come up to my scenes now, I'm going to see that that's the default. If I want to see that 3-point faded, and any of the other ones, I can toggle through them, but I kind of just prefer the plain background. Alright, so that's most of my settings. The last thing I want to do is under a group. Oh, I guess I should save this as the actual template. So let's do a save as first. And this defaulted to the last folder that I used. So I'm going to navigate over to the Dropbox, pick up my system files and my templates. And, well, one thing of note is that when I tell it that I want to make this, well, they added a few more items and moved this around. So I'm looking for a part template. There we go. Put it in order. And the part templates, maybe because I added it, it's not freaking out too bad. So part, and this is going to be my inch template. Alright, so one thing I didn't get to, let's go back into the document units. It'll take me right to it. I would like to have 3 decimal places for inches, 2 decimal places for millimeters. If we were setting a fractional inch, then I would come over and set the denominator, and then under more, so 32nd, and then under more, round to the nearest fraction, otherwise it still converts it to decimal. Under the drafting standard, mentioned previously that once we start making changes, I don't mind the ISO. You can change it over to ANSI, and then you can also save to an external file. I'd recommend saving that into your system files so that you have that backup in case anything changes or it updates at some point. Alright, all of the notes, everything that visual, dimensions, extension lines, arrows, anything you'd want to adjust is going to be in there. I would say make sure that you've kind of saved that original, so that if it gets all messed up, you can load back to the default. I kind of like the witness marks. You can do different virtual sharps. That's basically where, if you have a fillet or a chamfer, you can take the dimension or a line out to that location. Tables for bin, bill of materials, how they're going to look, and locations, dim expert items. And so size dimension plus or minus 5, I've changed these from 20, and sometimes we'll even just go to general, location plus or minus 5, angle plus or minus half a degree, chain dimensioning, and probably stay with the baseline and plus or minus 5, tolerancing, chamfer controls, display. Cosmetic threads would turn off the shaded cosmetic threads, grids and snap if you want to display the grid. The grid's kind of annoying sometimes, so if you like having it on in the background though, you can turn the display grids. The way this works is the major grid spacing at 1 inch. There will be 4 minor, heavier, so the major will be the heavy lines. There'll be lighter lines at 4, and so at 1/4 of an inch. And then snap points per minor would be 1. If I was to set that to say 10, then I would be able to snap every 25 thousandths. I'm a little more freeform than that, so I don't do the snapping or the displaying on the grid. But that's one of those. Try it and see if it works for you. We just did the units. Things in the model display, colors for specific items, unless there's something wrong with it, say leave those alone. Shading and wireframe, how circular are your circles? And again, that's a performance issue. Sheet metal, weldments, plain displays, configurations. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and save this one more time. Alright, so if I do the little push pen, I can see that this is the document template. I wouldn't want to draw anything into this because it is going to open with whatever I've drawn every time. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. When I go to New, I'm going to see now I have the templates and my part inch is available. And at some point I would probably want to make a millimeter version or a centimeter, whatever you're working in. The other one would be to come over to our settings, and I want to make a copy settings wizard. So SOLIDWORKS is still open, it'll probably warn me about that, but if I save the settings, and I'm not sure where that one went, but that's been a while since I've had it pointed to that particular folder. Alright, so I'm going to put a date on this. So monthly is usually good, and we hit the save. System options, toolbars, everything that we've created. Not too worried about the mouse gestures, but I'll go ahead and let it and have been written to. So if anything gets changed or corrupted, go back into the copy settings, do the restore, point to that file, and have it bring in your items. So we've created our first template, and well, might as well. I'm going to open up that template because it has all of the same settings, and really the only thing I should have to change is under the units. The primary unit is going to be, we switch to millimeters, grams, and seconds, is 2 decimal places on the primary, and then the dual dimension length will go to inches, and go to 3 decimal places, and that looks pretty good. So we need to do a file save as, and we're going to switch back over to the part templates, and then this is going to be part millimeter. Okay, and then make sure to close it so we don't draw anything into that mix. Now we have our first 2 part templates created.